Hello.
Good evening to Peter Brewis from Field Music. Good evening to my co-host Graham Chalmers. Two big egos in a small car. This is a significant edition, Peter. This is the 200th edition
Oh,
of
really?
our podcast. I'm glad you've ignored all 200 episodes, but you're not alone, probably. So don't worry about that. So anyway, we're really honoured to have you as a guest, Peter.
Oh, the
And
honor is all mine.
Absolutely. So, Graham, I'm going to do a brief introduction and then I'll let you start firing away on things. So, to introduce
Okay.
field music, formed in Sunderland. And by the way, Peter, anything that's inaccurate, just put a blasting noise on and say no, wrong. But anyway, formed
Okay.
20 years ago in Sunderland by brothers Peter and David Brewis, and field music by 2012 for their third album, Plum, gained a Mercury Music Prize nomination. And bringing right up to date, the latest album called Limits of Language came out on October the 11th. So it's just had its first week run. And just to give you some titles, and Graham, then please take on. Obviously, there's the title track, The Limits of Language. I love this title, sounds about right. Followed by Absolutely Negative, a splendid combination there, I thought. And I'm curious about who the waitress of St. Louis might be as well. And then
Right.
suddenly, this thing as we get older, I might have been wrong. So there we go. So there's some song titles. So welcome, as I say, Peter. It's lovely to have you with us. I should also, one other little detail we can mention before Graham takes over. A certain 60th birthday of Mr. Chalmers had the very splendid Brewis brothers playing in a very small Harrogate bar, and it was a fabulous evening. So I belatedly, Peter, by the way, thank you very much for that. So
Oh,
Graham, good evening.
Hello. Well, it's fantastic to have Peter here on this great occasion. And you got Field Music 20 years, us 200 episodes, downloaded in 28 countries, probably ignored in 28 countries. But I was doing a bit of maths, and I don't usually do maths or anything. And I was looking at Field Music's career in the last 20 years, Peter, and you've done
yeah.
9 proper Field Music albums. You've done 2 albums of B-sides and rarities, one film soundtrack album. I think there's been 3 Sclove language albums led by David, and there's
Yeah.
been 2 albums led by you the week that was, which is absolutely brilliant, and your Blow Dry Colossus album last year. And then David did the Soft Struggles last year. Now, if my arithmetic's right, that's 18 original albums in 20 years. that makes Film Music, without doubt, the most prolific British band of the last 20 years as well. But how else do you keep on coming up with new ideas over and over again?
Um, I don't. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't know whether. Well, I suppose we nourish ourselves with listening to lots of other music, and yeah. So I don't know whether we've had any original ideas as such. Um, but yeah, we sort of. I suppose because when I feel like field music don't really have, or me and David in particular don't really have a sort of like a stylistic philosophy as such.
Mm,
It means that whatever piques our interest at any particular point, then that's what we'll do really.
mm,
Uh,
mm.
we've got no real sort of rock star career to maintain. Uh, we just need to just yeah, I think we just need to do the things that we like to do. And actually, if you do that, then actually that makes things a lot easier.
Mm, mm,
But prior to field music, I think we'd been trying to kind of make it or
mm.
get signed by a record label or something like that. And I think we second guessed ourselves a lot, and we were up until the age of about 25. I probably wasn't very productive at all. I think I was quite worried about doing the right thing, and now I'm not bothered about that.
Yeah, well, you're a band that questions everything. If you read lyrics from field music albums, you question yourself, you question your own behavior, you question relationships, you question society, question politics, even question your own music. And one of the songs on the new album, Limits of Language, called "I Might Have Been Wrong," is without doubt the quintessential field music title, because it's not just that you might be wrong. It's not the fact that you think you're wrong. It's the idea that you might be wrong. So you're not even conclusively defining being wrong because you're always leaving things open. The thing about all field music and lyrics is it leaves things open. It's never, very rarely a closed book. Are you aware that that's how you approach music and
Um,
lyrics?
I think so. I think that was one thing that me and David probably thought about quite early on. Not being definite, and I don't think that necessarily comes from a place of sort of I don't know, underconfidence, but it probably comes from a place of not wanting to be overconfident, or I don't know.
I mean, Peter, that would go against the kind of swanky Manchester and cocky Liverpool way of making music, where there's a certain braggadocio goes with
Yeah,
bands from there.
Yeah.
Wrong, by the way, that they're wrong, but, but it hasn't stopped them doing that. But is a sense of being, if you like, more vulnerable or more uncertain, in some ways, actually, probably more the English character. It's more in keeping.
possibly. I think it's a lot more fun as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, sort of a shrug of the shoulders and
yeah.
sort of, well, I wonder if this, or I wonder about that. Yeah, just that I think uncertainties can be a lot more interesting than, yeah, the bravado that quite often comes with sort of I don't know, rock music.
Mm,
Um, and quite often that's just a front, really, for
yes, yes.
possibly for marketing purposes or something like that.
Mm.
If you come across like you're confident, then other people will believe you're confident. I think, or if you tell everybody that you're brilliant,
Mm,
and you're sure of things, you're as constant as the North Star or things like that,
mm, mm.
um, then people will, you know, maybe there's more of a chance of people believing that you are that. But I don't. I think that kind of doesn't really work for me and David. I think we'd call each other out.
Well, it certainly works, that approach, because Limits of Language, which I've played a lot now, I think it's one of your best albums, even
Well, I hope it's
possibly
at
the
least
best album.
our
And
yeah. I hope it's at least the ninth best.
That
no,
sounds about right.
it's an absolute, it's such a pleasure to play because without stopping being field music, you've changed direction again, and there's a little bit of influence of like 80s synth pop
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
80s soul music, and it's a bit softer in general and less angsty, and the quality of the songwriting and the actual sounds you use on the album is rich and warm, and it's a real pleasure to play in. And sometimes field music albums are they're not the sort of albums you play at a party in general, but
oh
this
God, no.
album you could slap it on a party, and I think most people would think it was good,
Mm,
even you'd never heard of field music.
mm.
Well, I think there's a different sort of sound to it, different yeah, maybe a roundness to things. And I think that might come with the using synthesizers a little bit more, and
Mm.
on a technical level, maybe like certain reverbs that we've used, and yeah, maybe a bit of smoothness to it. I mean, that probably comes from some of the things that that we were um, listening to, because there's certain things stay all of the time in the background,
Mm.
um, that we'll never be able to get rid of the influence of. um,
Yeah, but you've got so many influences. One of the interesting things about field music is that even a 4 minute song can remind you for a microsecond of about 12 different bands from different eras. So you're never influenced just by one type of sound or one type of band. It's
no,
always a combination, an unusual combination of influences.
yeah, and I think that's I think that's what we look for, and I think that's maybe what something that we recognized in I mean, the Beatles, for instance. They were the ultimate sort of synthesists, where they could synthesize their influences and
Mm.
um, almost wear their influences on their sleeves in a little way, but then being able to find their own voice
Mm.
within that synthesis, while also like trying to be immensely popular as well, um, which is the bit that we
Yeah.
kind of missed out.
Well, everybody else has joined you because the record industry's changed so much, partly because of streaming, that the rest of the industry based on sort of traditional, slightly guitar-based bands is all it's all followed where field music have already gone, which is to be completely independent and not really to play the general big mainstream game because the game seems to be shutting out anything except certain types of music. And you were already doing that, and everybody else is sort of following you now.
Well, yeah, I don't know whether they're following us. I think it's just probably something of necessity, really. Um, yeah,
And in keeping with that, Peter, I mean, doing an in-store record shop tour, which you've been doing, Shed Seven from here from York have been doing that for their Liquid Gold album,
yeah.
and they very much push themselves now as an indie band. They were obviously on a major level now with Cooking Vinyl, but they push the element of being an indie band and doing self-promotion and being like a cottage industry on one level, if you like. The significance of doing in-store record shop tours, it seems to me a really logical thing to do because you can't get closer up to fans than that.
Mm.
It seems to me a really sensible approach now to promoting a record.
Yeah, I mean, we'd done it a few times before.
Yeah.
Maybe never on this sort of scale, not scale, but length.
Mm.
Uh, and I think, yeah, we've embraced the sort of the looseness of it, and then you actually can go and meet people and speak to them and like maybe even speak to them as you're playing as well, which it doesn't
Yeah.
seem the right thing to do when you maybe playing at a normal
Yeah.
music venue, but in a when you're in the corner of a record shop, well, you can speak to other fans of
Mm.
record shops, and it is good to have a that sort of connection with other people. I mean, and I really like small gigs. I really like the intimacy of them and not being quite sure what's
Mm.
going to happen. The lack of formality to it.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy that.
Yeah.
Um, it feels
Uh,
exciting
mm,
and quite safe. It's like, well, you don't have to get it right.
Yeah.
You can just
mm.
play something, and for instance, we played the songs for our new album, and we didn't use any synthesizers when we
Mm.
played in the record stores.
Yeah.
We just
You never you
so
never make it easy for yourself though.
well, I think
That's
that
for
was the
sure.
easiest. I think that was the easiest thing to do, really.
Mm,
I think we probably are quite lazy in a certain sense. In that the hardest thing is to do things that you don't want to do.
mm,
You have to put a lot of effort into that. But if you have an idea and you think, I'm just going to do that. The excitement of doing something that you actually want to do really makes the work side of it really, really easy. It's, for instance, doing this record store tour didn't feel like a chore at all. It was just,
That's amazing.
it was really good fun.
I've talked to bands who've been going for considerably less than 20 years, who are much more jaded and cynical than you are, Peter. Your enthusiasm and your creativity is just undimmed after such a length of time. It's quite remarkable.
Well, it has peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
And yeah, there maybe has been some troughs where you think, oh, what's the point in doing this? And generally the answer is, well, it's to do things that you enjoy doing, and you see other people getting some enjoyment out of it as well, and that's quite a privileged position to be in. So I'm very, very, very fortunate.
If Peter, there are limits of language. I mean, that's in the title. Limits of music, or is there no limit to music? I mean, 18 albums in 20 years would suggest there's no limits to music.
Well, if we try and make another album, I suppose we'll find out, eventually.
I wasn't seeing that as an answer. Fair point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's things that music can't do.
Yeah. Such as?
Save the world.
I don't think film music could ever run out of ideas. I generally don't.
We'll find them from somewhere else.
Full potential.
Yeah. We'll find the ideas from somewhere else, and I think there's I think quite often, without wanting to make it sound really dry, I think we do look at making music as a bit of a research project, where you go and find out things as much as you can about a particular subject, and you find out how it was done, and then you chuck all of these things together, and then you write your own essay with hopefully like a new idea or some new ideas. So it's in the combination of who did it again? Which philosopher? Sort of thesis and antithesis and synthesis, and I forget now.
Oh, good.
I don't know. Popeye the Sailor Man.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, can't remember. Someone else will know. And but that's the idea. And there's
we don't do much philosophy on Two Big Eagles of Small Car.
Well, no,
speak for yourself, Graham.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I mean, there's a challenge there, Peter, about the limits of language. As I say, it's in the title.
Yeah.
Do you feel there are limits of language? I mean, it's a provocative title to suggest that maybe there are limits, and if that's in some way restricted. But they do always say that when people are having arguments and in opera they burst into song because it's the only thing they can do. The language in its one form has reached its limit, so they have to burst into song, but they still sing at that point, so they're still using language. So it's interesting, the concept of a limit of language.
Well, I think I mean, I suppose I was thinking about it in terms of I'm in a long distance relationship, and me and my partner can speak on the phone, or maybe even be on Zoom like this, but there's nothing to sort of replace having a hug.
Yeah.
I suppose that was the initial idea of it. Well, no, the initial idea was just listening to reading very briefly some Wittgenstein, and he said something along the lines of the limits of your language are the limits of your world. And I thought, well, I don't really know whether I agree with that. I'm sure there's more to it than that. But I thought, oh, well, what about if you put that on its head and you say, well, what are the limits of language? And we the limits of language is that, well, not everybody speaks the same language, and therefore things can really get lost in translation. Even within English, we can say one thing, we might say something on, I don't know, Twitter or something like that, or whatever it is now. And things get misinterpreted, misunderstood, and languages are, there's no real sort of common language, and there isn't in music either. People talk about music being a universal language, and that I don't think it is.
Well, it's even said that men and women hear music differently, which again would suggest, there's so different ways of how one actually reacts to sound or words within that as well. That so I mean, obviously I can't prove that one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
but I'm told that that's the case.
Well, there are different cultures, different cultures hear music differently. Where
yes.
Our major scale, the Western major scale, might sound like the most bizarre thing in the world to some cultures. Where an Indonesian gamelan sounds like out of tune bells to your average Radio 2 listener. No offense, Radio 2. So yeah, people hear, well, of course, hear things differently.
And people interpret language differently, as you say. Misunderstanding is so easy. And there are, and when one functions with so many senses as well, which aren't language, but other forms of responding and connecting, in the myriad ways that we can, it's fair to say there definitely are limits to language, and that other things come into play. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in a way, music can be seen to be, outside of verbal language. People talk about the language of music, but again, I think there are many different languages of music across the world. And actually, even sometimes when we're rehearsing with the band, me and David quite often have some similar vocabulary for things. And we know what we're talking about, but we might say something like that to Liz, who's in the band, and she'll just think, what are these guys talking about?
Yeah, again, limits of language.
Yeah,
Graham, I think we come back to you if we may, Graham.
Yeah, the interesting about field music though is that after all this heavy discussion, if you ever see field music live, they're really funny. They're a lot of fun. They're not like,
well, I don't know whether we're funny,
standing there being intellectual.
I don't know whether we're funny. I think maybe he's just.
You're funnier than Wittgenstein. I know that.
Well, he might have been a very funny man. I don't know.
Only his private life. But yeah, I heard. Is it true that when you were younger, you were in a rock covers band?
Yeah. I mean, we're in a rock covers band now in a way, because we make the records and then we have to learn how to play them live. Yes, we were in a rock covers band.
Is it also true that you're thinking of doing a Doors tribute act?
Always thinking about it.
You haven't closed the doors on that one.
No, because because of our school pal Andy Moore, who played in the first two field, actually, and lots of other bits of field music. We keep trying to drag him back into the band, but he can play keyboards, in a style similar to Ray Manzarek. He can play the bass line on one hand, and then all the other things, and that's how we used to play. That's how we used to play with field music, just as a 3-piece.
Yeah.
And he was in the rock sort of covers band that we did as well, which again we keep considering sort of doing that again just for fun. Well, me and David kind of did that for your birthday, Graham, didn't we?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but you're so good at it because you always bring your own twist and your own stamp. You're incapable of just being a copyist. It doesn't work like that. You never end up.
We're not good enough. Not good.
No. So, I think you should do a Roxy music tour and call
Oh,
it For
really?
Our Pleasure.
For our own
Good,
pleasure.
good.
Yeah,
Dave
I
does a
think
good.
I think people would like it.
Yeah, David Brewis does a good ferry impersonation. In fact, for the New Year's Eve in 1999, the idea was that everybody came as their hero of the last millennium,
Mm.
and I came as Albert Einstein, and David got dressed as Brian Ferry. I
Great.
mean,
That sounds great.
and there were three Freddie Mercurys.
Well, that's just obvious. Freddie Mercury's the
Yeah.
obvious one.
He's like a combination of Einstein and Brian Ferry, really, isn't he? The best bit.
Well, maybe a little bit of Carry On films chucked in there as well. But
Tell me
the
about
amazing
the
thing about
session that you did with Mark Riley and Gideon Coe. I mean, they have impeccable taste in music.
They do.
Six Music, obviously, they've come together to do a new show together. So, have you previously done sessions for either of them? Presumably so.
I think our first ever session was for Gideon Cole,
Mm.
back in 2004, maybe in London, and then we've done so many sessions for Mark
Yeah,
Riley.
yeah.
I can't really count them, but yeah, but also, we were me and David were both fans of their respective radio shows. Really,
Yes.
it was the soundtrack for our week, really.
Mm.
And where, the sort of place where we would discover music that we hadn't heard before.
Yeah. Which I still think is the key role of Six Music, to do exactly that.
Well, yes.
I think that's the most important reason why, when it was under threat, and thankfully that threat was removed. It's because it does keep introducing us to new music, and it's probably it's more likely you'd hear field music there than you would elsewhere, and that's the reality, and to be able to do sessions on there as well, which must be a joyful thing to be able to do.
It is. It really is. But I suppose it's this thing. It's music's a kind of a cumulative thing where we're not always going to have the privilege of getting our records played on Six Music or being able to do sessions, because there's loads of new bands and new acts coming through who, and we're, it may be in the way a bit. So I fully expect us to. I mean, I don't think I'll be able to stop making music.
No.
But I would understand if we got sort of cast aside.
That's a terrible thought.
Well, no, it's.
Well, we're not doing that anytime soon.
No, but you know how BBC radio works. It needs to have the pretense of remaining contemporary.
But I think, Peter, as well, though, that and Gideon Coe and Mark Riley are examples of this. That if they have an absolute love for a band, they will keep pushing that band and having them on their show. And I think that, again, has been one of the things with Six Music presenters, that sense of loyalty to a band, to keep championing the new music by that band. And I can't see that changing. I think that's one of the qualities that's very much there on that station.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we listen to Six Music, and that you are getting a curator. The presenters are all whether they play field music or not, they are playing what they like. That was what the original idea for Six Music was, or that's what I was led to believe from the adverts anyway. But that is what the people that I know, the presenters that I know for a fact play the music that they're excited by and that they like, and whether that's loyalty to certain bands, maybe, but also people like Mark and Gideon and Lauren for sure. They are huge music fans, and
I mean,
they're
that
after.
passes on the tradition of John Peel, really, it seems to me. I think, but a station-wide policy as opposed to just John Peel having that late night policy when he was so
Yes,
the
yeah,
figurehead, if you like, of bringing new music to attention.
yeah.
Graham.
Well, I'm looking ahead, and I know that Field Music have got a proper band tour coming up in February across Britain, but I'm also thinking, what next album wise? And is there any chance of Field Music, who've always had slight prog influences, of going full prog?
There's a chance.
You heard it first here.
But me and Dave always have like these silly discussions, when we're driving about or in the studio or whatever, and it's, oh, we should do a triple length prog album, or something like that, or we should do I don't know, what was another thing. Yeah, sort of like a power trio,
Mm,
where we just play as a power trio first, and then we
yeah.
record the album, rather than make an album first, then try and figure out how to play it live.
Ah,
And then there's all kinds of things
mm.
that we
Because
think
when
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
because when you see Field Music live, you can see that they could be just a conventional rock band if they wanted to be, and you never do that on record. You're very rarely completely conventional, but live you can see you've got the ability and the feel for just doing what everybody else does if you want to do it.
Um, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what that would be really.
Mm.
So maybe I don't know how to do it. I think we tried playing a couple of AC/DC songs once, and I don't know whether we did a very good job of it. Maybe there's
Take care on
something.
that highway to hell. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the AC/DC groove is harder than I thought it was. The sort of, and I've you know I respect that.
Graham.
Well, yeah, it's got to the point where I'm thinking that you've always remained true to Sunderland, and you keep on touring, and you've played gigs outside Britain as well,
Yeah.
and you've made an impact, but you've never really left Sunderland behind. And the lyrics, in a sort of bleak way, quite often seem to be inspired by real places in Sunderland and real people. Although you can't really tell that as a bystander. You have to like investigate and find this out, because you never use words like the name of the street or the name of the part of town, but you can sort of feel that it comes from Sunderland.
Well, I might have. We have used specific places a couple of times, but that they are things like
Mm,
high street. So everywhere's got a high street. Um,
yeah. Well, for the
or
moment, yeah.
yeah, for the moment, yeah, whatever.
Clothing sale. Yeah.
A street called a high street with lots of everything's a pounds on them.
Mm.
Um,
Mm,
which are okay. But yeah, I mean, I suppose I don't want to make it too um what's the word? Like
Parochial.
yeah,
paro-
parochial.
parochial. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to have
Yeah.
some and I always have this sort of, not that I've ever spoken to him, but I always have sort of sort of Paddy McAloon in the back of my mind saying, well, you can write
Mm,
about wherever it's you can be fantastical about what you write about, and it doesn't always have to be about the street. uh,
mm.
so I suppose even when I write something like The Waitress of St. Louis, uh
Mm.
it's a pun on you know
St. Louis. Mm,
St. Louis
mm,
uh in the United States of America. But this basically, this is about, that song is about the waitress in our favorite cafe, Louis, which we saw as a kind of church like holy place. And the waitress was there as we were growing up. But again, I didn't want to make it too. Again, I had sort of Paddy McAloon in the back
Not
of
too
my mind.
literal.
Yeah, it's like don't give the game away, even though I just have. But don't give it away in the song, and don't make it too. It can be a universal thing. Or it could be a mistake. Is he talking about St. Louis and St. Louis in the US, or is it something else? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another example of how field music don't do the obvious. They're not a band that likes to do the obvious.
Well, even sometimes I know, when we get together, me and David, and we show each other sort of our little musical demos, Dave will often say, "Nah, not that one. It sounds too much like field music."
I've always wondered, when it's two brothers in a band, and we can name any number of brothers in bands who frankly just keep falling out with each other over and over, and we've got obviously a big comeback going on next year for strictly commercial reasons. What about you two? Putting you on the spot there, but as I say, we've seen many a situation with friction with brothers in a creative situation. How's the relationship between the two of you?
I mean, I think it's quite fine. It probably wasn't, it probably wasn't always easy, I don't think. But so I don't know why we get on. I think we definitely have different things that we want to do. But neither of us feel trapped in field music. We just, when we feel like we want to stop, we just stop for a bit and then start again when we want to do something together.
I mean, even when you've done solo albums, you tended to work with each other even on those, haven't you? I think that's me generalizing.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the thing is it's the idea with field music. I think, Dave might say otherwise. It's just, well, if we've got an idea, then whoever has initiated the idea, the other person will do their damnedest to help realize that idea,
rather than challenging it.
Yeah, well, unless there's like something terrible about it. Yeah, not really. We'll support each other really, because I think we see each other as like, our ideas are they come from an authentic place. So just let each other get on with them and help each other out.
Graham?
Well, Limits of Language, which I think is an absolutely brilliant album. Absolutely great songs and really interesting instrumentation. Presumably, when you're touring it with the band in February, you're going to bring in more of the synth sounds?
Yeah, it's too hard to try and play it all on guitar.
You've been listening to the podcast Two Big Egos in a Small Car. Your hosts were Graham Chalmers and Charles Hutchinson. This was a Baltic sub-production.